Hey everyone, welcome back to another Canadian Politics Explained video. And today we're going to be going over the Conservative Party's troubles in the upcoming election that may or may not happen within the next few months. So first off, the Conservative Party a while ago elected Erin O'Toole as their leader, and since then the polls haven't really changed much since then, at least nationally. Because as you can see, if I go down here to the national seat projections, it hasn't really changed in the past 6 months. The Conservative Party has gained a few seats in their seat projection, but it's really marginal, and the Liberals haven't really lost any either. So where is the Conservative Party's, or where will the losses come from if they do end up losing seats? So the big one is British Columbia. Because in the 2019 election, in BC, the Conservative Party won 17 seats, and the Liberals and NDP both won 11. And there was one independent, Jody Wilson-Raybould, but yeah. So in British Columbia, if I switch this to BC, the Liberals are projected to win at least 17 seats as of now, March 24th. Because that was the last time this poll tracker was updated. And the Conservatives are at risk of even losing second place to the NDP. The NDP hasn't really changed its levels of support in the province since the 2019 election. If I get to the polling averages, it stayed relatively consistent at around 25 to 30%. So, yeah. Not much has changed for the NDP, but for the Conservatives, this is where they'll lose the majority of their seats, because that's, as of right now, they're going to lose, according to this poll tracker, 5 seats, which is a lot considering that the Liberals only need to gain about 13 seats in order to form a majority government. Keep in mind that this does have like a margin of error, so they could win a lot less, and the Conservatives are actually trending upward in the recent weeks. They stayed pretty consistent over most of the winter, but now they're trending upward a little bit. So this could change, but as of right now, this is where they're going to lose most of their seats. Another area where they will lose a few seats, the Conservatives, is in Alberta, where there's a chance that the Liberals will win 2 to 4 seats, meaning that because they won 0 last election in 2019, the only seat that wasn't Conservative in Alberta was one NDP seat, which was Edmonton Strathcona, which has been pretty safe NDP. So the NDP will maintain that seat. But the Liberals are poised to gain 3 seats. Most of them are in Edmonton, but there is, I think, 1 seat. If I go here for a second, I think there is 1 seat that's in Calgary that is a toss-up. So this is Edmonton Strathcona. This is pretty safe NDP. It's been NDP for the past few years, as we can see here. Yeah, see? It's been NDP since 2011 at least. I don't think it goes back that far. But, yeah, a lot of these seats are either Conservative-leaning or just toss-ups. And a lot of these seats, like Edmonton Centre, a Liberal is very close to overtaking the incumbent in these ridings. However, since the summer, the Conservatives have kind of maintained their ground in Alberta a little bit more. Like Edmonton Griesbach, this was toss-up because the NDP was projected to be competitive in this riding, but now it's Conservative-leaning, as you can see here. So the NDP had a peak here of about 35.1% support to the Conservatives' 36%. But now the NDP have slid, and especially to the Conservative Party, really, as the Conservatives have gained 2% and the NDP have lost about 5%. So the NDP have lost support in this riding since the summer. But there are just a lot of seats around Alberta. Not really the rural ones, more of the urban ones like Calgary Centre, Calgary Confederation. All of these ridings will be competitive in the upcoming election. Okay, so another place where they may lose seats is the Prairie provinces, where Last election, there were no seats won in Saskatchewan for the Liberals, and they won 4 in Manitoba, and the NDP won 3 in Manitoba. Now the Liberals are projected to win at least 6, and the NDP will lose 1 seat they'll keep the number of seats consistent. And the Conservatives are only projected to win 19, while before they won 21 seats. This is due to, a lot of these losses are really due to a lot of reasons. For example, COVID-19, the Liberals have received consistently higher marks from voters on COVID responses than Conservatives have, especially in Alberta, where Jason Kenney, the Premier, is becoming more and more unpopular as the pandemic drags on for his response to it. And there, in the provincial election, the NDP have a good chance of winning the premiership back from Jason Kenney. Either way, another reason that the Conservatives will have some trouble winning this election, because all of these losses in BC, Alberta, and the Prairies would be irrelevant if they could do well in Ontario, because Ontario has been the swing factor, or the swing province, I guess, in the recent Canadian elections since 2011. Because in 2011, Ontario, the Conservatives won 166 seats in total, but in Ontario, they won 73, which means that in Ontario, that was where most of their seats came from. As we can see, if we split it like this, they won 27 seats in Alberta, 21 in BC, and 73 in Ontario. That's way more than any other province. And even in Quebec, they only won 5 seats, the second biggest province, because the NDP basically swept Quebec seats, wiped out the Bloc Québécois as well. They only had 4 seats. So, yeah, Ontario is the swing factor, and in 2015, the Liberals were able to get 80 seats in Ontario, and that's 80 out of around 100. What is that? About 120 seats. 121 seats actually. Yeah. But yeah, and then in the recent election, if I go here, they were able to hold the line and win 79 seats. So despite the losses in Alberta and BC, and also in Atlantic Canada, they were able to still win a minority government because of their strength in Ontario. And obviously Ontario is the biggest province, and so it's very important. And a lot of it right now is still Liberal leaning. If I go back to the poll tracker, polling averages over the past 6 months have been pretty consistently for the Liberals by about 10%. So they've been able to maintain all the seats, basically. They're projected to win 79 right now, and basically keep the same number of seats, while the Conservatives are poised to lose a seat, 1 seat to the NDP. So the Liberals will win, according to this poll tracker, they are projected to win about 79 seats. It could be a few less or a few more, but the Conservatives are not within reach of winning anywhere close to as many seats as the Liberals will. So in order for the Conservatives to turn this around, they'll need to turn this projection around. They'll really need to increase their support, both in Ontario and in Alberta, BC, and the Prairies. Also in Quebec, they're not really gaining anything really, which they're not really expected to because of the Bloc's strength. And the Liberals are meant to not really are projected to gain little support, if any support, because the Bloc is so popular right now in Quebec. Another thing, I guess we can talk about why the Conservatives kind of have less of a chance in this election. One of the reasons is that Erin O'Toole is a pretty divisive figure in the Conservative Party, mostly because he kind of has to balance the social Conservatives and the more moderate Conservatives in his party and get them all to unite around him, which can be a very difficult task. And that kind of came to a head last week when the Conservative Party voted 54 to 46 against, I guess, kind of adding a clause to their, I guess, party document that outlines their ideology and what they want to do that said that climate change was real, basically. And it wasn't a lopsided vote. It was, I think, 54 to 46%. So we can see how each province's Conservative Party MPs voted. So in Eastern Canada, like Quebec and the Atlantic provinces, about 70% of delegates voted to add that clause to the party document, meaning that they probably have more of a chance of winning over those swing voters who are more in the middle of the political spectrum and are deciding whether to vote for the Liberals, NDP, or Conservatives, like their swing voters. And this is why they're holding the line there. If a lot of them had voted against it, then they would have been able to portrayed as climate change deniers by the Liberals, which, especially in Atlantic Canada, which is fairly liberal on the federal level, that would be detrimental to the Conservative support. And they would probably see a 2015 level rout in Atlantic Canada where the Liberals took all 32 seats. And that's one of the main reasons that in 2019 the Liberals lost the majority government, as well as losing seats in the prairies. They lost about 5 seats, I believe, to the Conservatives, and 1 to the NDP and 1 to the Greens in Atlantic Canada, which led to them losing 7 seats, which, as well as the prairies, not winning a single seat in Alberta and Saskatchewan. That really helped the Conservatives and was detrimental to the Liberals' hopes of forming a majority government. And also, in Ontario, this is the most surprising part for me. 58% of delegates opposed this addition to the document, meaning that 58% of the, I think, 36 or something. I think it's 36. Let me find this. 36 MPs rejected this proposal, which in Ontario could lead to the Liberals gaining at least a few of these ridings, because obviously a lot of those Conservative ridings are fairly safe. Because if I go to this, and then if I go to Ontario, then list, a lot of these Conservative seats are pretty safe. Like, for example, this one, Barrie Innsfield, this one probably isn't going to swing that much because of moderate voters being turned off from the Conservative Party because of them being portrayed as climate change deniers by the Liberals, which will undoubtedly happen. But in these more toss-up seats like Essex, this could be the factor that kind of takes away from the Conservatives and gives the seat to the Liberals, which will greatly increase the Liberals' chances of forming a majority government. Because although they could form a majority government without gaining seats in Ontario, it's kind of like a slim margin, and they need to win like basically all of the toss-up seats in those provinces like BC, Alberta especially, and the prairies. But but if they can win seats in Ontario, then that'll remove the need for them winning all those seats in Western Canada. So this climate proposal, and especially the Ontario Conservatives' rebuke of this, will definitely hurt them in Ontario especially, which is where they need to hold the line or gain seats in order to form a majority government. And then obviously in the West, except for BC, it was only a 2-point edge for the no, which means basically there's not many MPs. There's 17 Conservative MPs from BC, which means that it was probably like a 1 MP margin of loss for the people who wanted the climate proposal to be added. And Alberta and Saskatchewan, that isn't too surprising. That's where there are more social or more right-leaning Conservatives than there are in the East. At least Ontario, Quebec, and the prairies. Not the prairies, the Atlantic Canada. And yeah, so, and this is kind of seen in his approval rating from the Conservative Party. Because for the Liberals, they approve of Justin Trudeau by a wide margin. About 85% in total approve. But look at this number. He has 40% strongly approve in the Liberal Party. At least that's what their vote was in the last election. And yeah, he even has 13% approval among conservatives, which is likely some of those more moderate conservatives that are kind of on the cusp of switching to voting for Liberals or NDPs. Because this is just a vote in the last election, so it doesn't really mean bi-party membership or anything. So a lot of these are probably swing voters who are who approve of what Justin Trudeau is doing, but aren't kind of ready to switch to voting for the Liberals just yet. But Erin O'Toole, he has 51% moderately approve and only 26% strongly approve in the Conservative Party, which is a lot lower than the 40% strongly approve in the Liberal Party for Justin Trudeau. So this kind of shows that the Conservative Party is, I guess, they're not rallying around O'Toole as much as the Liberal Party is rallying around Justin Trudeau. Because in the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau is very popular with a lot of MPs and voters. But in the Conservative Party, O'Toole kind of has to balance the two factions of the social conservatives who want more conservative social measures like reduced access to abortion, cuts to healthcare, and the removal of the carbon tax. Well, that's more of a popular issue. Like a lot of conservatives want to remove the carbon tax, not just social conservatives. But and only 26% in the party strongly approve of him, and this is kind of shown. This is kind of because he's trying to balance the two factions, so they don't strongly approve of him, but they're okay with what he's doing, and they'll still vote for him over any liberal. And this is just a Research.com poll that was taken recently and added to the poll tracker. This is an older poll, but I just wanted to show that the issues that are important to Canadians have kind of changed, because COVID-19 has become a much less popular, most important issue, I guess, as vaccinations roll out and as the pandemic is nearing its end. Canadians are putting their focus more on, I guess, older issues like healthcare, jobs, and the environment, basically. So a lot of these people who said the environment was the most important issue probably weren't conservatives. Some may be, but it's unlikely. And because of this, that doesn't really tell us much about how the climate announcement or climate rebuke from the conservatives will affect their chances in the upcoming election. We'll have to wait for more polls to come out, because the last time this was updated was about 5 days ago now. Yeah, it was updated March 24th, and today is March 29th. So, yeah, that's basically everything. The Conservative Party will have to turn things around in order for them to be able to at least form a minority government or even form a majority government, but that's very out of reach. As shown by this, they only have a 10% chance of winning the most seats. And if they do that, that'll be because of Ontario mostly. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.